So, hello and welcome everyone with the Growth Strategy podcast and live stream, which I try and do once a week if I can. What I try and do is bring you interesting people from all around the world. And today, Peter, who I'm going to introduce you to, he's in Croatia. Is that correct?
I'm in Croatia. Yeah, I'm in Croatia. I'm not
No,
from Croatia.
no.
From
Well, I
what?
guess that from the accent. But anyway, so I try and introduce you to interesting people from all around the world who I believe can add value to your business or career. And then what we try and do when we do this is we pick their brains about their own businesses and what they do, but also share the best advice they've ever had and a few different things which might help you with your own kind of business or career. So, Peter, everyone now can kind of see you. For people that don't know you, would you like to kind of introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Very simply, my name is Peter Hopwood, and I'm an executive speaker coach and pitch coach. So I help people simply to create better stories, and once they've got those stories, to share them in the right way. So how they say it, how they share their messages, create more impact, and generally boost their confidence to where it needs to be and where it really wants to be.
Oh, cool. Because one of the things that I appreciate, and I always try and talk quite openly on my channels and stuff about the things that I do and things that other people do. And actually, it was about a week ago that you reached out to me to ask if we could almost have a conversation. And what I like about that, and the reason why I wanted to kind of talk about it, is because it shows the hustle and things that people do when they're doing their grind. That often people think it's almost like a swan and everything just magically works and stuff. But actually, there's always a hell of a lot of work that goes into stuff that people don't often see. So I just wanted to share that tiny little tidbit that actually, I thought you're a great guest to have on.
Yeah, absolutely right. I stumbled across, I'm completely honest, stumbled across your Twitter page and Twitter profile. And then I looked a little bit more, then I delved a little bit more deeper, did a few more clicks. And then I thought, I'd love to have a chat with this guy and love to see if we can set this up. I reached out,
Yep.
we had a few more conversations and voila, here we are.
No, good stuff. So as mentioned, and we'll touch on kind of social media later, I restream this through something called OBS. So what everyone else can see, you have your logo in the corner, and I kind of send it to lots of different channels at the same time. And for me, it's the same kind of thing. It's how do you engage with a wider audience? So although this isn't on stage speaking, it is in many ways, and in some ways it's also the biggest audience that I would 20,000. Well, I have 18,000 followers, you've got 29, so together that's an Old Trafford, or it's a hell of a lot of
That's
people.
massive. That sounds massive. The actual reality of it, whether we've got that many tuning in,
No.
might be a little bit different, but it doesn't matter. We've got the numbers never lie. So yeah, it's you're right. It's sharing our messages. We're still being on this little box here. We're still being me. I'm being judged. You're being judged. People are tuning in, hopefully trying to get value from this. So it's the same things, the same elements, just in a different format.
Yeah. So would you like to tell people almost, and I like to explore people's story. And this is it's because you have different people at different stages of their careers who go through, and almost everyone goes on their own journey. And then likewise, the more that people can relate to you or me or the guest last week or whoever, that's hopefully where I get the depth of connection with different people. So I'm happy for you to start wherever you wish, but almost how did you get from wherever you kind of grew up through to being basically doing what you do now?
Yeah, literally, quite. And not, I wouldn't. Is it interesting? I don't know. I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Literally, so I'm from Watford. I went to art school, West Herts College. After college, I decided, I had itchy feet, and I wanted to travel a little bit. So I literally, the years after college, I lived in Paris. I lived in
Wow.
Marseille. I lived in Budapest. Mallorca, Madeira. So lots of traveling, working for different companies. They weren't. I wouldn't say they were high paid jobs, but they were intriguing and looking back, all helped me to where I am today. So I worked for Disney. I
Wow.
worked for Thompson Holidays. I worked as a rep. So all these jobs gave me this kind of feeling to share my messages in public. So as a rep, you can imagine, a lot of people think it's a holiday job. It's a job where you can have a lot of fun, you're in the sunshine, is not really a real job. But the reality is, a lot of it is about selling. A lot of it is about selling yourself, selling the resort, selling the things people could do in the resort. And so every, I don't know, something like 3 or 4 times a week in front of 150 to 250 people, sharing a half an hour presentation on all the things all the great things that they can do while they're on holiday. So through that, I realized, the way I expressed myself, the way I spoke, what I said, how I said it, and how I was feeling, all these things contributed to whether the people looking at me, listening to me, perceive me as somebody they could like, perhaps trust, and then eventually, bang, buy from me.
Because the one thing which I think almost adds extra depth to that, and the one thing I have noticed as well, is that obviously this is on video, but you're the first person I've seen in any interview, any conference, any whatever, that obviously gestures with their hands as I do, but you're purposely doing it in shot on camera, and I've never seen anyone do that before. But my point is that it's the attention to detail, to intentionally do it, is what makes your craft, takes you to the kind of highest levels. But then on the other side to it as well, like a club rep is a tough gig. That is a tough sales gig to hone your craft, working with customer services, the pattern to keep people happy. I think that's a great kind of way to learn your craft.
I've really learned my craft as a rep through the presenting and through trying to being more tough skinned, because the hassle and the complaints and because when people come on holiday, their expectations are high. They're looking forward to this pretty much all year round. All they had to go by was back then, one page in a brochure, and they get there, things are not right. And so you're the first person they turn to. The time is so important to somebody on holiday, and that's the same thing. A lot of the things are connected with speaking in public as well. The people who are looking at you, listening to you, their time is number one, right? And the thing is, no one needs to give you their time. People have the right not to listen to you. Right now, people that have tuned in, that are looking at this live, or maybe are going to watch this on YouTube a little bit later on, they will listen to us. They've decided to give up their time to listen to us. So me and you, we've got a kind of duty to give them something back. They don't have to listen to us, and at any stage, bang, they can just click.
Got you.
And they've gone. So it's up to us. It's really up to me and you somehow during this chat that we've got going now, is to give them the value that they want. Give them something maybe they weren't expecting. So when they finish, or when we finish and they walk away, they've got something. That's literally me and you. This is what our job is right now.
No, cool. I was going to jump onto social media later, but as we're kind of at that point in the conversation, you obviously do very well, and I've checked out your branding and different things, and it's all very, very good. What is your aim with your social media? Does that make sense?
Yeah, my social media, so I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook I use, but not really for business. LinkedIn is the number one for me. This is really where, at the end of the day, when somebody connects with you, whether they're online or not, at some stage they're probably going to Google you. Yeah. At some stage they want to see a little bit more about you. And literally not everything I do, but the things that are worth sharing of value, it's on social media. So it's almost like a reference. I want people, if we're going to work together, for example, I want them to Google my name. I want them to see, have a look at LinkedIn, give them a flavor of who I am, give them a flavor of what I look like, how I move. The video, I try and put as many videos as I can to really give them a impression exactly who I am, because a video in 10-second video, like your podcast right now, the video side, and even just the podcast side with the voice, people can get a real flavor and they can make up their minds within 10 seconds whether they like you or not, whether they want to keep listening to you or not,
I'm with you.
or perhaps work with you, rather than, let's say, 100 emails.
Because
So
this was...
if you get your audience, you get your listeners, you get your people to see you and hear you, and then they can make up their mind.
Because, yeah, for me, that's the big thing. It's how you build trust over time. So I first started doing social media video about 8 years ago. And if you go right back on my YouTube, you can see it, and it was pretty bad. But actually, it's just, for me, it's also,
Really?
it's the consistency. So the fact that I try and do this once a week, it just hopefully means from a business point of view, people might want to work with me or not. But it shows that I'm willing to put in the work every week. And it isn't easy, and do the editing and source guests. And, so if someone wants to work together, I'll still be here in a year's time.
And another thing, which is really, again, relevant to public speaking, having the ability to show yourself as you, which is what you do through this here on the podcast, through the videos, through the other things you do as well on social media. People can see you for who you are. Now, doing that on stage is so powerful. It's something that, most of us, a lot of us are afraid of public speaking, that fear, that anxiety rises. But really, what it's all about, what it comes down to, is being afraid. This is what I think anyway, being afraid of letting people really see who you are.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. So
I didn't think you were going to say that. I thought you would say fear of judgment, which is true. And it's one of those things that almost as a child, I was never shy. I'd get up on stage, I'd do the stupid stuff. And then likewise, if I'm ever at a conference, I always kind of be the one on stage. That's like itching inside me to kind of do it. But I think a lot of the fear, and I think a lot of the reason why other people don't do this, is the fear of judgment. But it's so much that it cripples them from doing anything, which actually in today's kind of modern world can make a big difference.
Absolutely right. I mean, the judgment side, we can't get away from that.
No.
We do that instinctively. We judge other people. Some people judge more people on a higher level than others.
Yeah.
Okay. And interestingly enough, I think certainly from people that I've been working with, and just the sense I've kind of gathered over the years, the more you are afraid of the judgment of others, is actually somehow related to how you see others as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So really, working with clients, for example, a lot of what we do, certainly at the beginning, is really finding out the story in your head about yourself, how you feel about yourself, your self-awareness level, how you think others see you as well.
Okay.
And then through all that, we kind of get to a place where my clients feel more comfortable and happy to share more of who they are, not so much of who they think the audience should be seeing.
Okay.
But more about who they are. Yeah.
So
it's an interesting and intriguing topic.
So I must say, so obviously in 2020, I learned to do this. We've all been locked down. I would love to travel more, and all the cities that you've mentioned, I miss that. But actually, so much of the world has gone online that actually, in some ways, I bet when people had traditional meetings in person, in an office, or with a client, yes, everyone kind of went through the motions because that's what it was. But I know a lot of people that hate being on video with the likes of a Zoom call. And, this now affects everyone, but almost, do you kind of link being on a video call or a Zoom call as similar to being on stage?
There are many similarities because what are we doing? We're showing ourselves. Mm-hmm. We're speaking to people that are judging us. We could be speaking to a lot of people. So right now it's just, I can see you, you see me, but really there's a whole Old Trafford Stadium looking at us right now.
There isn't, but I get your point. There could be.
So through the lens, and there are a lot of other people seeing us potentially, and that for a lot of people, like you said, can be quite crippling. It could be something that a lot of people feel anxiety of in terms of the judgment. But yeah, I mean, what it comes down to is saying to yourself, okay, let people judge me, go ahead and judge me, because I can't stop it, But what can
And they're
I?
going to do
I
it
can't
anyway.
do anything about that. But what I can do is increase my chances of the people looking at me, listening to me, that hopefully will like me a little bit more, trust me slightly more, and keep listening. I mean, our whole aim right now is to somehow get people to keep on listening, and at the end get some value.
It's the classic thing in marketing where the first line of copy is to get you to read the second line, is to get you to read the third line. And so I'm with you.
Same thing. It's the same thing here, and it's even more difficult here because someone can, if they're not happy, if they feel like they want to leave, they just click. It's just one click and bang, you've gone. How many times have we started watching a YouTube video? We've got YouTube on the TV, for example. We flick through, we're looking at different things. First 5 seconds, bang, gone. So our attention spans are shorter, and we need the beginning here today, the beginning of your podcast, that is so important, because that within that first 30 seconds or so, even less, people that are not maybe subscribed or don't know what this is, who've come across to this, they'll be making up their minds whether they want to stay or not.
So one of the things that we said we were going to talk about, and I think it's very, very relevant, I've been there, is to do with the challenges that people face. So if we talk about this in terms of public speaking, and then we'll link it back to Zoom, I think it's now when everyone kind of gets that. But almost, I know a lot of people hate being on stage. Obviously, your job and what you do is coach people through this to kind of help get the most of themselves and communicate their message and that kind of thing. What are the kind of both the main things that people struggle with, and then also what are your tips to help solve them?
Good question. Yeah, there are lots of techniques and lots of ideas, and there's no one size fits all, certainly, with anybody to help them move up. So to start with, a lot of it is about, as I said earlier on, about getting into the story in their heads about who they are, the self-awareness side. So being self-aware of who you are and how others see you. So once we've kind of talked about that, then we start to work on how can we actually make you feel more confident, and the judgment side isn't as bad as we think.
Okay.
Right? So these things in our head, that self-talk that just somehow grows and grows and grows. So remember, whatever we focus on gets bigger. So the one thing we focus on, let's say we're having a hard time, got this anxiety about going on stage, and we focus on that and we think about that all we'll do is just carry on, and it grows and grows and grows. As soon as we switch the focus, whatever that focus is, now a lot of the time I try and push their focus onto the value.
Okay. All
right. So let's say somebody's feeling that anxiety, then they just in their head, it just keeps going round and round. I can't do this. I'm gonna, it's gonna be awful once I get up there. If we start thinking about, okay, what's the value? So how do you want, for example, I'll ask you right now.
Yeah.
If I ask you now 4 or 5 adjectives of how you would like the people looking at you and listening to you on your podcast, how you would like them to perceive you, what would you say?
Credible.
Just throw them out, 4 or 5.
Credible, knowledgeable, likable, trustworthy. And I think part of the reason, almost the production, is that I want people to know that I put effort into its high quality, but I don't try and hide the vulnerability or the flaws. And that's again part of the message when I'm trying to communicate on a deeper level. So if I make a mistake, I tend not to edit it out. I just carry on, because that's me.
Okay. So as you were saying those words, and as you was, this last 15, 20 seconds of what you just shared with me, how do you, when you finished that, how did you feel? How are you feeling when you think of that?
I guess because I was concentrating on thinking of something, as opposed to I've got 7 lights around me, I'm on camera, is the stream working? It does take your mind out of
absolutely
the worry. Yeah.
Absolutely. Often just by saying those things and imagining it, in your head, an image of how you want to be perceived, and having that as close as possible to reality, helps you start to focus on something positive. And as that last part you said after those adjectives, I could hear and I could see in your face you felt stronger. You felt right. It felt good. It looked as if you were genuine and passionate about that.
Okay.
So as soon as we start focusing on things that are actually positive and naturally the value as well, if we think about the value. So, okay, again, another question. All these questions. I should be interviewing you.
That's
so, a question. So, at the end of this, not specifically this episode, but generally, at the end of your podcast episodes, what do you want people to take away? What's the value they're going to get? What are they going to get from your podcast?
So for me, it's a lot of it. It's the value from a speaker, where the stuff that we've already talked about, I think is really good. And I think people will value that. I always like to flavor it, learn from it, bring it back to what I class of the businesses that I know and make it relevant. So I try and process everything that you say and make it really simple for people. And that's kind of what I look to do to build trust. So it's a way to share your message. And then over time, when I'm working away on my kind of iMac ahead of me, I have stuff in the background and I look at people and feel people and get a vibe off them. And so prime example, earlier today, I've started watching videos of a guy who's a tech investor in San Francisco, and he's really good. And I've probably watched about 8 of his videos, but he recorded them 3 years ago. I only discovered him today. So a lot of what I do this is with the 5 to 10 year game in that is my plan. That I almost don't mind if nobody watches this now because I don't sell a high volume product. So it's trying to build the long term trust and relationships and stuff with a lot of people in a way that due to COVID, I can't network in person. So it's that, and again, like the profile side of it is kind of what I'm trying to do and how it works, and hopefully.
Okay, so people walk away, or when they see this at any time, whether it's this evening, right now, this evening, or in 2 or 3 years' time, they're going to get a better flavour of who you are, of what you do, of potentially connected with the services as well, your values. All this is connected to you and your values, and these are the things that differentiate you from somebody else.
Yep.
So again, by focusing on those things, on those ideas, then we can't focus on two things. We just simply can't focus fully on two things at once. Maybe women can at sometimes, but generally, two things at the same time is really difficult. So when you're feeling nervous, when that anxiety is rising, focus on the value. Okay, what's the value? Say to yourself, what are they going to get from this? And if you believe that, and you can share it, and you've got the content you're sharing is good, that when they walk away they're going to get something of value. Then that automatically will start to help you feel better and start to help you not focus on the things out of your control.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, cool. It's very interesting. I must admit, I'm scanning through our questions that we had, because actually what I always love is when a conversation flows and ebbs and goes in different directions. And actually, because that's the beauty of, for me, because one of my pet peeves is when people do a podcast and all they want to do is plug something. And actually, for me, it's about people getting to know you as well. And I think that's the real side to it. That likewise, as people change businesses and careers and stuff, that what you might sell or work with people on might change over time, but your inherent values and who you are and what you're like and stuff is generally probably kind of going to be the same. So one of the other things that we said we'd talk about was to do with self-awareness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to pick up and run with that?
Sure. So I've mentioned it already a little bit earlier on, but the finding out the stories in our head about who we are and knowing ourselves is knowing ourselves better, not just as a speaker. Okay, so in my context, it's about standing on stage. It's about showing up and how you show up and the perception of others on you. But generally, being self-aware is, the more self-aware we are, the more the better communicators we are, the better leaders we can become, the better we can have better relationships as well. So and a lot of the time we don't actually want to. We think we're self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
We think we're self-aware. I mean, there's a study out there. It's quite a famous one. I think it's about 80%, 85% of us, when surveyed, when asked, are you self-aware? 85% of people say yes, I am. But in fact, the truth is they're not. They're not actually self-aware. So often we don't want to maybe get into that. So, how many times have we actually maybe listened to our own voice?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how often do you look back at your podcast or listen to your previous podcast?
Multiple times a week, just because after this I then spend a few hours editing it. I do other stuff on weekends, so it's quite a lot. But ironically, so you grew up in Watford, I grew up in Liverpool, and basically I used to have a really strong accent when I was growing up, and then it was some advice that I got from an uncle that if I ever wanted to do well, I had to tone it down and stuff. So my voice now is different to the voice that I grew up with, and therefore I don't hate it, as where a lot of people hate their own voice for different reasons. So because of that, I actually don't mind seeing myself or hearing myself on video, because I kind of got used to it.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, hating your own. A lot of people do. That's right. They don't like their own voice, and again, that comes down to a lot of it comes down to the judgment. So the judgment, they think other people's perception of that voice comes under some kind of category, when in fact most of the time it isn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So looking back at what looking back at our videos, how we're performing on stage, how we sound, all this helps us, certainly as a speaker, to evaluate how we're doing, to evaluate the things that we say, how we say them, things that really went well, some lines that were classic golden nuggets in terms of questions or reactions. You're going to use those again, perhaps. Other things you hear, you see, perhaps you ask yourself, why didn't that work, or how can I make this better? And that's it's a really strong idea in terms of moving forward as a speaker. So I'm also a corporate host and MC. So I work at a lot of stages on different global tech conferences around the world. So I get to see, it's really good because I actually get to see a lot of speakers, and it's absolutely everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So being a speaker is actually quite a lonely job. Yeah. But when you're getting paid a lot of money and you're on stages around the world, it's often speakers often seem to be quite egoistic. The ego is quite high. But the thing is, speakers that are really good, so the really good, great speakers are speakers who are good listeners.
Okay.
Yeah. So speakers who can really listen to feedback, listen to themselves, listen to others that are looking at them as well. Showing a lot of empathy. These are the ones that really move forward quite quickly. So you've got other speakers, let's say, that have been doing it a long time, professional, get paid a lot of money, a lot of stages, travel a lot, and they deliver their talk, their speech, their keynote, and they're good. They're very good, right? But just because they've got all those elements under their belt, that does not mean at all that they're actually progressing in a fast way. Often it's not, because the ego is so high. This isn't for everyone, but there's a percentage of speakers out there on the circuit that I like that, and they know who they are, or maybe they don't know who they are. Perhaps, I don't know. So practice doesn't necessarily make perfect. So the more you speak, the more you do something. So the more you do this podcast, the more as the episodes go past, the years go past, let's say, you'll get more confident of what you're doing, right? No doubt that will happen. You get more confident when you do something a lot of times.
Yeah.
If you don't think about how you're going to progress, if you don't think about how you're going to get better, how you're going to grow, listen to criticism, listen to what other people are saying, listen to, or look at yourself, look at those videos, listen to those, to the podcasts you did before, you're not going to get better. So practice doesn't necessarily make perfect, but practice makes perfect when you throw in the self-awareness slice of cake as well.
No, okay. So one of the things, again, where I chop this up and I put it onto YouTube and I put it down into like 6-minute kind of segments, there's a lot of people interested in professional speaking. You have professional speaking associations, you have clubs, you have networking things, whatever. What to you makes a good speaker?
For me, what makes a good speaker? Okay. Naturally, the delivery side, in terms of the confidence. Okay, that's the sort of first top layer, right? Which a lot of people have got. There are a lot of people that speak on stages, a lot of people that speak on webinars, meetings, and they come across as confident, and that's good, right? But that's actually the easy bit.
Okay.
To find somebody who can speak and speak well, right? The next stage is really the content. You know, at the end of the day, and we've mentioned this quite a few times during this conversation, it's all about the value you're going to share to the people listening, and that it depends on the people listening, on what they want, and what they value. And if you can do that, and you come across as caring, compassionate, showing empathy, you know, really putting yourself in the shoes, from, you know, looking at things, looking at yourself from the perspective of the people looking at you.
Okay.
Then you can only grow and get better. But if you go into, like, there are certain speakers that go into speaking and want to do that would love to do a TED talk, and they go into it into it for the wrong reasons, for the ego side, you know, because it naturally, you know, on a stage, people looking at you, it's you know, center of attention.
Yeah.
All those feelings bubble up, and I think those happen to a lot of people at the beginning of their speaking careers, or the beginning of that process. But as you do more and get used to it, and you realize that it's far more than that. It's about connection. It's about engagement, and feeling comfortable, feeling safe when you're listening to that person talk.
Can I ask you a difficult question? And it might be difficult just because it might be related to a client of yours. But as in just generically, like I've always wanted to improve with stuff, and I have a huge bookshelf, and I read books every day for context and learning different skills within my life and that kind of thing. And often for, say, tech conferences, there'll be a keynote speaker, and I'll Google them, find them on YouTube, watch their talk. First time I watched the talk, I'd applaud. I'd be like, that was brilliant. You know, just you can see how good it was. But then I'll go onto their website, I'm going through their sales funnel, and I'll see them do the same talk in a different venue. And I'm like, okay, well, and then again, somewhere else and somewhere else. And for me, it's that balance of how often in the speaker circuit is it where people have, I'm not going to say an act, but a talk that they do all the same time, as opposed to people that react to different content every time they speak, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, but listen, that's really common. If you imagine the whole process, especially if you're a professional speaker, you're known for something. You're selling your package. This is the title. This is what I talk about, and bang, this is what I want to get booked for. And similar audiences as well. So speaker bureaus.
Just, as someone that will see it a lot more than I do, I just wanted to ask, because that was almost the beauty of it.
I see that all the time. I mean, clearly, speakers often they adapt them to slightly different audiences, and you know, speaker bureaus often they know this, their clients know it as well, so they'll specifically ask, listen, we need to adapt it for this, or we have to change a few things so it brings more value in this area. And you can imagine the speakers that can adapt to that have slightly more bookings. Others that stick to the same thing completely, the box every single time, unless they're, you know, world-class speakers that are just getting booked simply everywhere. It's not going to work for so long. So you often see speakers actually have that, you know, that keynote. It's boxed. That's a package. They do it for a few years or less than a year, let's say, and then you see them again sharing other different titles because they know they have to come up with something else, something different. So
because
no, but it's very true.
Because say with Gary Vee, one of the things that he does similar stuff at a lot of the conferences, but is social media, when he then repurposes that, he'd often focus on the Q&A. And often that's the thing where I try and do this and where I'm starting to move towards, is that if people have business strategy type questions, or for you to do it speaking, it's the constant engagement to actually add value on a regular basis is almost where I kind of see it going. But it's not often that you get the chance to ask someone who does this all day, every day, and has done around the world different questions. So when it kind of came to mind, I thought I'd ask. So one of the questions which I ask everyone that I speak to is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever had?
Good question. I knew it was coming.
It doesn't have to be about speaking. It can be about anything, life, travel.
Yeah, it's actually connected to lockdown. So here in Croatia, we had lockdown as well. Full lockdown, very low number of infected cases, and deaths very low as well. Nevertheless, taken very seriously, as it was across Europe and around the world. Anyway, and someone once said to me years ago, when he was going actually through quite a tough time, personal time, he said to me, it's when you're going through a tough time, you need to keep moving.
Okay.
And I thought, well, what do you mean? Moving like physical? You have to keep moving, keep walking around the block, don't stop. No, he said, well, not necessarily. You can do that, but the idea was really a mental sense, psychological sense. It's just in your mind, keep moving. So physically, we were all kind of locked down, but it's important to keep things moving. So, for example, the work we're doing, keep reaching out on LinkedIn, keep sending out leads, keep things steady, keep your ideas going by keep watching YouTube videos or subscribe to a course. Lots of free courses out there as well. So always do something. And again, the physical side. So I listened to was it this
Natalie,
week? Sent it out
about
the other
PR.
day. You sent out there was
just
a short one
on audio only one.
Yeah, that's right. About
it was about motivations.
Yeah. So yeah, just by getting out. Okay, you couldn't do that much during lockdown, but just a walk, just a walk with a friend, or just on your own in the fresh air, doing something different. All these things keep you, again, and it goes back. I think it goes back down to the focused idea. So when you're focused on something else,
yeah, I'm with you.
The thing the kind of crappy thing that causes the anxiety is still there, but it slightly goes down because your focus is on something else. Time's the biggest healer. So as time goes on, those things go down, and then you have many other focuses. So focus on other things and keep on moving. Certainly for me, in my dark days, throughout my life and my career, I've had some tough times as well. Keep on moving. Don't stop.
Yeah.
Because if you stop and you start to feel sorry for yourself, and you go down that road of, again, negative self-talk, and it's so much, you're digging your own hole. You're digging your own hole. Nobody's gonna I often think to myself, nobody's actually going to help me out of that hole but me.
Yeah, it's true. But no, I think it's a good one, and I've always tried to learn and develop. I think partly just because I had a hunger to do stuff, whatever the stuff was. And then actually when I was unhappy in different times, for me, my creativity stopped. So actually doing all of this and all of the other stuff that I kind of do, the marketing, whatever, that to me is fun, that it helps me switch off. And it's trying to, manage that, I guess. But then likewise for the work that I do for clients every day, when I help do proposals, I help them run the company or whatever, often that does build up and you have a pressure there. And for me, it's sometimes just get through each day. Not that I'm, at risk of doing anything stupid, but almost you can still feel pressure. But it's just get through the day, wake up, start again, and just keep going. But fingers crossed, lockdown will ease soon and we can find out what's and
having the sense of so certainty and uncertainty. So we all know people during lockdown and during the last 6-7 months that have looked at all of this and have felt the anxiety has risen a lot in terms of what they feel about the whole situation. Yeah. So they like things that are certain. They like things that are predictable, things that are consistent, right? But then there's others, and we know them as well, that have looked at all of this and said to themselves, yeah, it's pretty tough right now. We don't know what's over the mountain. We don't know what's on the other side. But for now, I'm safe. For now, things are going okay. I've got a kind of plan, and I'm gonna sort of take this as an opportunity, or to look at this as something new. And that is actually quite this is a really important thing with speaking. So especially, again, feeling the anxiety of going on stage. If you're somebody that is in this park, in terms of you want things that are certain, you want things that are predictable, you things need to be perfect and consistent. It's far beneficial if you can lean more towards the side of uncertainties, because things may go wrong. Right? Things are not. It's new. It's a new experience. Things are not maybe perfect, and that's okay. That's okay. So and taking it as it comes, not living for that presentation, but being present fully for the presentation, and not thinking about how others will think of you, like when it goes online or when people see it on YouTube, what will they think? So having an idea, having that sense of accepting uncertainty is actually a positive thing when it comes to speaking.
The one thing I always find is that if I'm ever feeling nervous, and actually I don't so much get nervous doing these now, but when I did the first one, I did, because you never, as soon as you click the button, poof, it goes to a lot of people. But actually, for me, if you feel nervous, it just shows that what you're doing matters, and it matters to you. And actually, I then just try and embrace it. But it's also no coincidence that I don't sit down and do these. I stand up, I move around, and I try and just enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. Yeah, that's good for you. That's really cool. That's there's a lot of air coming into your body. Your voice sounds better when you stand. I'm sitting. I'm kind of only because I haven't got a stand for my laptop, and this wouldn't be the right thing. But I'm okay sitting. But yeah, and it looks good. Your lighting setup is fabulous. You got the professional mic in front of you as well.
This is all about you, not me. But anyway, I appreciate the comment.
I should do a podcast, an interview just for you.
Yeah, cool. And the other question that I always ask, and I actually think in some ways this is really valuable. If you were to give advice to your younger self, and you can pick any age, any part of your career, whatever you want, what would it be?
Yeah, it goes back to the judgment thing. To let people judge you, it's okay. It's okay. People actually don't care. People are not really judging you. They might judge you just for very quick. A very short period, but at the end of the day, people really don't care as much as you think people care about you.
Because do you mind if I riff off this a little bit? Because I think it relates to business. Is that often people worry a lot about what other people think, and it could be: do I start the business? I'm losing my job? Will people think less of me? It could be anything you want. But the one thing that always gets me is that you're completely true that people who you want them to do well because you like the guy, but 99.9% of your week, you're focused on your own shit. You're trying to figure out, how do I pay my own mortgage? How do I do this? How do I do that? And almost from a business point of view, the one thing that got me is that some people hate selling and reaching out and doing the hustle, that kind of thing. But my point always is that most people, if not, apart from your family and your spouse and your children, other people don't generally care if you can't pay your mortgage. So due to that, any of the kind of preconceptions or worries about what people think, fuck them, it doesn't really matter. Just do your own thing and do the best you can, because the truth is they don't care about you anyway. And then people that don't like you, who cares what they think? So so I completely agree with you that it's a difficult pill to swallow that, is an important one to do, but especially in today's world, be it on stage or online, it's important to kind of put yourself out there.
As we get older, it's easier to deal with that. Well, for a lot of people, it's easier. Not everyone, but certainly for me, it's been easier. And being a coach, being a speaker coach, has actually helped me become more self-aware, more comfortable with who I am, and all the good stuff and the bad stuff. We've all got it. We've all got weaknesses. We don't necessarily show them all. That's okay. We don't have to. But again, letting people judge you, and it's okay, and they have the right. When we're talking about speaking, of course, people have the right not to like you. That's okay. That's absolutely fine. But if you can hit, like, the people that are listening to this, hopefully, 80%. In my head, I'm always this idea of 80%, or the audiences that I'm talking to, or listeners. If 80% seem to be okay and happy or satisfied, or around that area, and the other 20% that are not, and that's okay. I'm quite happy with that number.
See, I actually go the full standard deviation. So you've got your 14 or 12 or 14% that rarely love what you do, and there's a guy called Simon that watches every week, and he always comments and stuff. So hi, Simon.
Hi, Simon.
Then you have the 32 and the 32, so the 64% in the middle. That, yes, you just want to be seen as credible and stay there. You're going to have the other group of people. So out of our 50,000 people that we're connected with, there'll be a good mental maths, 2,000 people that just don't like us. But that's fine. They're not going to buy my stuff anyway. So I almost don't let it ruin you, But it's I appreciate the.
And so the quicker you can fathom that not everybody will like you, and people have the right to judge you, and they don't have to like you, then that's almost like a weight off your shoulders, because it's all okay. So all it actually does is tell you, okay, well, what am I going to do to get people to listen to me?
Which comes back to self-awareness.
This is my job. I have to do that. Yeah.
So is there anything you'd like to talk about before we go?
No.
Nothing
else. Listen, it's been a really good chat. I've really enjoyed this. All I'd like to say is that anybody listening to this, or is going to potentially listen to this, it's quite difficult to be listening to it now. Anything that you've heard, you liked it, you didn't like it, you want to challenge me on, you want to challenge both of us on, pop down your comments, let us know. If you liked it, let us know as well. But yeah, it's been a good chat, and it's given me food for thought and helped me think a little bit more as well.
No, but because I always try and pick up more than what we just talk about. So for me, again, I mentioned it before, the way that you gesticulate to the camera is the best I've ever seen in terms of a Zoom thing. And but I appreciate the value of that and what it means and that kind of thing. And then likewise, I think it's part of the reason why I do what I do, because I love people and I love the stories and I love the backstory. And so now that I know more about your history and the travel and the jobs you've had and what you do, I buy into why you do it so much more than other people. And again, from a buying point of view, if I was ever looking for a speaking coach, because we've now got this connection, I feel like I know more of your story and what you're about. I'm much more likely to buy from you than anyone else. And that's almost the beauty of this. And obviously now that we're connected, I'll follow more of your content and that kind of thing. And you never kind of know what's going to happen.
That's the beauty of it. You never know, because we might be working together in next week, or in 5-10 years time. You never know, or maybe one of our big connections might be doing that. So
that's true. And Ashley, thank you for liking the post. Ashley's one of my clients, and she's lovely. Right. But but this for me is the beauty of the live interaction. That again, you've probably got quite a few new followers just from today, or at the very least, you'll be on their radar to just start to build the relationship, which takes a long time. But Peter, I appreciate your time. I've really enjoyed it today. I've learned a lot, which was good. I'll definitely try and be more self-aware and stuff. And it's been good to kind of catch up and genuinely kind of stay in touch. And
absolutely,
I look forward to seeing your content.
Hope we can do this again sometime.
Well, we will. And then what I've started to do when I repurpose the content is probably in about 6 months' time, I do like your best bits, and I recap it every Sunday. So I'll be tagging you in stuff in the future as well. So we'll definitely kind of stay in touch.
Sounds good.
Cool. Well, enjoy Croatia. I am very jealous. I'm stuck in Gateshead in Newcastle, but it is what it is. And stay in touch.
Thanks so much.
No worries. Cheers, mate. Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.